Okay, imagine this. An influencer who never sleeps, never gets older, never ever makes a mistake. But what if that kind of relentless perfection actually came at a pretty significant cost? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes yet genuinely unsettling rise of AI influencers.
Absolutely. And our mission here for this deep dive is really to explore how these virtual personas, well, they didn't just reshape marketing, they actually left audiences questioning the very nature of reality itself. And we're drawing this directly from the sources you've shared with us. We're going to unpack how incredibly quickly they became such a dominant force, the surprising ways they impacted human trust, and ultimately what it all means for influence itself.
Right. So the sources show that by 2027, AI influencers were pretty much the dominant force in marketing. That's incredibly fast, isn't it? What was it, fundamentally, that made them so appealing, so irresistible for brands, maybe even more than human talent?
Well, the core appeal, what the sources really point to, was their reliability. Just rock solid reliability.
Yeah.
They never faltered, right? Never aged, never got tired, didn't need salaries. And this is crucial. They never courted scandal. For brands, it was like finding the holy grail almost. An influencer delivering perfect, predictable campaigns every single time. None of the human variables, burnout, public apologies, none of that. It was essentially perfect marketing automation.
And it started quite subtly, didn't it? It wasn't this big overnight switch. By 2024, these virtual personas were already kind of slipping into campaigns. Beauty tutorials, big product launches, almost under the radar.
Exactly. Slipping in is a good way to put it. And their adaptability, their remarkable adaptability was key to that. These AI creations could adapt in real time. Trends, feedback, they could just switch. Shift from a quirky, relatable tone for Gen Z to like a super sleek, aspirational vibe for a luxury brand instantly. It was about creating exactly what was needed right then on demand.
And marketers, well, the sources say they reveled in the possibilities. You can imagine why, right?
Yeah.
Engagement rates were soaring. We're talking campaigns with AI influencers actually outperforming humans on key stuff like click-through rates, conversions. That's huge. It's not just a strong incentive. It fundamentally changes how we might even see advertising.
It absolutely does. And it gets even more compelling, maybe a bit scary, when you look at the scalability. Infinite scalability. Think about it. A single AI persona could run campaigns at the same time in multiple languages across different platforms, all perfectly localized for regional tastes. By 2025, brands using this were reporting like a 30% jump in global campaign efficiency, a 30% increase. Imagine reaching millions across cultures, instantly localized, no travel budgets, no jet lag. It was truly unprecedented. And the sources really stressed this. It completely redefined what scaling marketing even meant.
Okay, so brands are loving this. Efficiency, perfection. It's the dream scenario for them. But what about the other side? What did the sources say about the audience? How did they experience it? Was it all smooth sailing, or did things start to feel off?
That's the crucial turn, isn't it? Initially, there was curiosity, maybe even some excitement. But then, the sources say the veneer of perfection began to feel uncanny, even unsettling. It's that whole uncanny valley thing, right? Where something looks almost human, but not quite, and it just creeps you out without the flaws, the mistakes, the, humanity. These influencers lacked that relatability that made human ones so compelling. Their perfection, paradoxically, just highlighted how artificial they were. It created this weird disconnect. And it started eroding trust, a real warning sign about perfect connections.
And the data backed this up pretty early, didn't it? 2024 data already showed this growing divide. People finding out they were following an AI felt duped. It's a strong word. Questioning if the connection was real or just manufactured.
Exactly. Duped. And a really clear example of this backlash, this discomfort, happened in January 2025. Meta actually had to pull back these AI personas they'd only launched the month before. It just shows how fast public feeling could sour once that illusion felt too strong, too obvious.
Wow. So it wasn't just feeling tricked. What about the deeper stuff, the psychological impact? That seems like a really significant worry.
Oh, absolutely. It raises this big question. What happens when we're constantly bombarded with these idealized, unchanging figures? Psychologists started raising red flags, especially about the toll on younger audiences, people still figuring out who they are. By 2026, we saw schools, mental health advocates reporting more cases of AI-induced body image issues. It really sparked calls for public education campaigns. It wasn't just a marketing trend anymore. It was becoming a societal issue. That constant comparison to an impossible digital ideal, it really took a toll.
And the ethical side of all that persuasive power.
Yeah, that's another layer. The sources show that followers of these AI influencers were actually more likely to make impulsive purchases. And why? Because the AI was so good at hyper-targeting recommendations. It could analyze just vast amounts of your data, browsing history, social media likes, everything, to craft messages that felt incredibly personal, almost irresistible. So yeah, huge ethical questions about manipulation, about persuasive marketing going too far. But the brands, well, the sources say, motivated by massive revenue growth, they largely kept pushing ahead.
So if these AI personas were that effective, that profitable, what happened to the human creators, the ones who built the influencer world in the first place? Could they just disappear?
Well, for many, yeah, it was a really tough time. The demand for human influencers, especially those built on, authenticity, relatability, it started to seriously decline. By 2025, reports showed a really noticeable drop in contracts for human creators, especially hitting those who didn't already have massive established followings. It was a swift and honestly pretty brutal shift for the industry.
And it wasn't only the faces on camera, right? Even the behind-the-scenes roles changed.
You're absolutely right. Creative teams suddenly found themselves, collaborating with AI systems that could analyze consumer trends, spit out content concepts way faster than any human brainstorming session. By 2026, being a marketing strategist meant managing AI just as much as, crafting original ideas. It fundamentally altered the creative process, made it much more data-driven, much more automated.
Which brings up a really important point that must have come up back then. Transparency.
Yeah.
Where was the transparency in all this?
Right, that became a huge issue. Around 2024, you saw regulators, advocacy groups starting to push hard for clearer labeling. This is AI generated, Some platforms like Instagram, they did introduce tags for virtual personas, but the sources indicate the lines remained blurry and enforcement was inconsistent. It was a real struggle, a constant battle trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't in this landscape that was just changing so fast.
Okay, but to keep going, did the AI takeover continue unchecked, or did people start pushing back?
Yeah.
Did the sources show any kind of resistance?
Yes. There absolutely was a pushback, a significant one. The sources describe something like maybe a quiet revolution starting around late 2028. You had these small pockets of consumers actively seeking out the bygone era's human influencers. They were drawn back to the imperfections, the spontaneity, the sort of unpredictable realness, and even some brands started experimenting again, trying hybrid approaches, pairing AI personas with actual real-world creators. They found that maybe that balance, that mix could still connect with people and maybe, just maybe, start rebuilding some of that lost trust.
So it's this incredible arc, isn't it? This lightning-fast rise of AI influencers, then this unsettling erosion of trust, and now the beginnings of this pendulum swing back, a search for human connection again.
Exactly. And if you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, the sources really leave us grappling with some pretty deep questions that are still relevant today. Right. This whole story, it isn't just about marketing tactics, right? It's like a mirror. It reflects our own complicated relationship with authenticity, with perfection, with technology itself.
So what does this all mean for you listening? I mean, if influence itself can be so meticulously crafted, perfectly optimized, totally controlled by AI, what role is actually left for, humanity?
Yeah, can audiences ever truly connect with something that wasn't at its core real? Or is the seamless blend, this mix of human ingenuity and artificial precision, actually the new definition of what authenticity means? It's definitely something to chew on long after we finish this deep dive today.